Today I'm turning this unfinished space into a studio quality soundproof office that'll be so quiet you could record a podcast while your kid plays the drums upstairs. If you work from home and you're tired of hearing the toilet flush, the doorbell ring, or your kids going wild while you're on a call, this video is for you. Now, good soundproofing isn't a product, it's a process. To get a great result, it's all about the entire assembly. All right, so the rules in soundproofing are pretty simple. The goal is to get as much mass as you can between your source of sound and where you're going to be. So in our ceilings, for instance, Matt's going to be putting up a double layer of the 5.5-inch thick insulation. So what we're doing is we're going to put in 2 layers and we're staggering the joints. All right, because we're just working against the concept of air leaking. Anywhere where air can pass through is where noise is going to pass through. So what we want to do is make sure that we are using these putty pads, which are also fireproof and fire rating, which is kind of cool. We'll stretch that out. And we are going to cover up all these wire holes, just pinching it in. It's like plasticine. All right, that is a really good installation. Now, when you're choosing your insulation, there's a few things you need to know. One, it'll say wood or it'll say steel, okay? Wood frame versus steel frame have got different spaces because the metal frames are like a U-channel. Pick the thickness of your framing. This one's 2x4. It is actually quite simple to work with. And you can just mark that and cut it with a utility knife. Okay, you want to cut it just a little longer than you need to, so you have to compress it in the space. Now, when you get to obstructions, the easiest way to deal with that is cut your insulation at that section and come at it from both directions. Okay, so one on top and then one from the bottom. Open up the insulation so the wires can fit inside there. And we're going to pre-cut space for our box. There we go. The stairs here are a bit of a tricky area because we do have a compromised other side. So one thing we have to do is get our bat in so that we're covering these gaps. Then we're going to go to the other side and seal up that gap. Before I put my base on, I'll trim it back with a knife. I'm going to crawl underneath that and push it in from the other side. Something like that, eh? All right, so let's just talk about this separation wall. This is a unique scenario because we have a beam on posts on each end and then we filled in a wall underneath it. And above it, the floor joist cavity, that floor joist continues on. So this space goes all the way across the other room. So what we're gonna do is grab some foam and try to let the expansion capacity of this block all the air transfer. I can't really stuff around a pipe very well. We'll do the same thing here where we've got HVAC and plumbing coming through. So there's a lot going on in this ceiling. So we've got the air seal on this. We've got 2 layers of insulation, staggered joints, okay? But now what Matt's gonna do is he's gonna do his best to put little pieces in and around. And then we can use the foam gun to shoot up, to fill up any gaps that are going to be left over. And he's got like a Tetris, and you got to block little pieces. From here to here is probably going to take you about a half an hour. Nah. 4 feet. This is the galvanized steel ducting. Because we embedded the ends in the foam, you see the difference? Right? That is amazing. There's not a whole lot more we're going to do. We are taking all the ducts back so that we can insulate on top of the space, okay? And then we'll insulate on the sides, and then we'll add a thin layer on the bottom. And we have 3 different materials here we can choose from. We've got the 5.5-inch, we've got the 3.5-inch, and now we have something called comfort board, and this is a 1.5-inch board. It's all about picking the right material for the space that we're filling, and we've got to maintain this separation. Just because the inspector's come and gone doesn't mean we're not going to do that. We're going to put that insulation back in there because Well, let's just be honest. We don't want to heat up the wires and cause them to deteriorate in an early fashion, causing a fire. That would suck. You can just rip that into whatever length you need. There we go. That's called mass. Okay, so it's time to strap. We're going to be using 1x4s. So we're just going to keep it nice and simple. We're going to go about every 20 inches, all right? Just because we don't need to have all that extra lumber. Every strap is going to have screw penetrations, and that can also move sound. So we want to try to limit the amount of screws we're using, and therefore the number of straps. Because we have a layer of 5/8 drywall, I'm fine strapping 24 in center. But because there's a lot of things going on in here, we're going to go with about every 20 inch. Just going to have every run continuous so we can find that wood really easily no matter how many layers we've got on the ceiling. Let's fill this room with Sonopan, Matt. What do you say? Ready? Here we go. This way, close to me. There you go. The Sonopan guys, if you've been following the channel, I've been recommending this product for years. This is the new miracle ingredient. Let me introduce to you Sonopan. Now this is my Sonopan installation panel. Now we're time for the Sonopan. We've had it in the Canadian market because it's actually manufactured just a couple of small towns over from where I live. I like to call it like a vibration killer, okay? Any noise that comes from either direction will hit that board and bounce in the other direction. Although it does a great job of separating you from the spaces and the sounds, you install this, then you have to work on the acoustics in the room when you're finished. So you've got to have the right kind of combination of layers. Yes, we're going to reduce our STC and our impact rating. It's getting more and more available now down in the United States as well, getting picked up by the major chain stores.
I think I had enough practice that I can nail this one.
I hope so, yeah. There we go. And close the gap to the, yeah, I'm on my tippy toes. You can already hear the atmosphere changing when you talk.
Yeah.
Gets a little more echoey.
Yep.
This is easier to cut through with one pass, the full thickness than drywall, but it does heat up your blade pretty good, so be careful. Okay, so there's our piece. Like that. Now we can trim that up a little bit later so that the drywall sits pretty. Remember, when you're building a wall with Sonopan, you're going to have drywall over top and possibly 2 layers. You want to make sure your screw is long enough that you get a good 1 to 1.25 inches of screw thread in your wood. It's super lightweight, it's not heavy, and it holds itself better than drywall does. It seems a little sloppy in a big sheet, but honestly, it's easy to grab onto, but it is the best bang for your buck on the market. Because it's what, $1 a square foot, give or take, depending on the market. That's really effective. Like $1 a square foot for soundproofing, it's crazy. So if you're soundproofing your space, check the Sonopan website. They have a store finder. They're expanding into the US and availability is growing every day. It's a fiber, it's really densely packed, but it doesn't give you slivers. It's just a little scratchy. There you go. So I'm going to mark all my boards up here so you know where the studs are, so that afterwards when we come back with the drywall we have a screw location on these studs that we can attach to. The acoustic sealant we're using is it's Acoustic Seal. It's the $8 version, right? Applying this bead to the bottom of the plate, nice and thick like, because there should be a little bit of gap underneath. I like to put on my walls with a sill gasket, even though we use pressure treated lumber. And this is just to get rid of any air that can transfer from one room to the next underneath that wall. And then we'll just set it on the ground. And then set it into the goo. And then I'm just going to press into the goo at the bottom. Beautiful. Now time for the assembly. 40, factory and factory. Like a glove. That could end up becoming a leak in the airflow. All right. Again, aiming to get as close to perfect as we can, knowing that perfect can't be found. Well, it's drywall time. Very exciting. We're working on 2 layers of drywall, different kinds of masks for all of our party walls. So our ceiling and these 2 walls both get a layer of 5/8 fire code. The guys over at Sonopan did some studies and tests, and they found that combining different thicknesses of material cancels out different frequencies. So they got all the details on their website if you want to check it out. But we're going to go with the 5/8 and then a 1/2 inch layer. We're going to stagger our joints for every layer. And then we're going to air seal this room by taping it all shut. That's when we're going to get the biggest part of our benefit, is having everything in here installed and taped. And then we're going to be able to install our door and get a really great test. But for now, we're just going to hang the sheets, mark our perimeters for our screws. We don't need to fill the body. Okay, it's not necessary to throw extra screws in. Try to eliminate as many fasteners as possible. Yeah, we'll see if we can get the ceiling done this afternoon.
Left corner.
Start there.
Right corner.
So that that joint gets covered up as well. You got to learn how to cut straight. All right, so this is not a traditional way to install drywall, but there's no taping going on here at this level. This is just hanging a sheet and staggering joints for the purpose of mass and closing off air. There you go. Okay, easy. That's got it. No, we gotta just cut this out. These are what we call box extenders, right? This is 1.5 inches. This is 1/2 inch. They come in real handy, especially when you're laminating layers of material, okay? Because the box gets established at a certain depth based on traditional practice, which is strapping and 1/2 inch drywall. Okay. All right, now it's time for us to go to the next layer. We're gonna do 1/2 inch. We're gonna do everywhere, all right? Now, the exterior walls, we should just cover this. We didn't put the Sonopan on the outside walls. We didn't add the extra 5/8. This is because our foundation wall here is a concrete block, which is a really good sound isolator. And on the front of the house, it's even got brick facing the street on top of that. So it didn't really need any extra help. We are going to be using full-length drywall, so it's 11 feet long in the ceiling. Okay.
Yeah. All right, there we go.
All right. And I'm going to just push this one up first. Everything else has to adjust accordingly. You got space there?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Okay. Now, I'm in. How is your gap over there?
1/4 inch.
All the way over there. Okay, then I'm actually happy with where it's sitting right now. We're going to go 5 screws each row. This is our finished surface, and these screws are going to be compressing the entire assembly together. Really careful not to break through that paper. There's 2 things going on with this layer of drywall. 1, it's a different type of mass. Number 2, this is the layer that's going to be air sealed because we're taping it. This would be the best moment in YouTube if the thing just fell on my head. And then as soon as we grab our drills out of the window, here you go. I got this in. Oh, I had it. All right. Okay, Maddie. This thing ain't that heavy, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Oh. All right. Don't be smashing things. The drywall break. So, because I have stone and wood screwed to stone, and I'm trying to air seal with my expansion foam and then into the vinyl, and then I get up on the top where my rim joist is, and there's a lot of different materials, a lot of inconsistencies. No matter how well you try to seal that up, even underneath this foam, there's going to be little tiny air gaps everywhere. So by sealing all of these little loose air gaps in using this polystyrene board, I get the benefit of not having a surface here that if there's ever any condensation, this won't go to mold. Now again, this is mass for soundproofing. It's not thermal barrier, where these windows are already pretty much sealed up for thermal. Schluter 30 board, polystyrene tile backer board. Okay, it is 1/2 inch, so it fits into the 1/2 inch return that I ordered with my new windows. I can actually install this, screw it down, trim it up nice and flush. I can install an outside drywall corner on it. I can then paper tape the joints, 45 mud, resurface, and it looks like a drywall return. What this does though, it has, and unintentionally, but because it's a polystyrene board, it has a bit of an R value, but it's a vapor barrier. Aesthetically, I don't hear as much noise in my left ear coming through here anymore. So that was definitely an accomplishment. And we still have to do all of our taping. So we will now get all the taping done. So when you're dealing with an acoustic wall treatment, guys, one of the things you want to know for sure is your wall plumb. If you just take your laser level, you can throw it in the corner and check and see. I mean, we are plus or minus 1/8 of an inch. So I'm gonna just start over there. We're gonna cut our panels, and then we're gonna use our oscillating tool to cut out our plug locations, and that'll be easy. The panel we're using is also a little thick, right? So I'm going to measure from the baseboard up. I'm 80.5. So I'm gonna go 80.25. I've already checked the rest of the wall, and it's relatively consistent. It goes a little higher at the end. And that's fine. So we're just gonna cut them all consistent to create that nice rectangular shape, okay? So let me just show you the panel. Here we go. Boom. That's nice, eh? You got options. You can go light or dark, right? Or black even. We're going dark because we're putting in an office. We're gonna have some dark furniture. Yay. There we go. The saw, when it cuts, rotates in this direction. So if I start from here and I drive, it's gonna come underneath and it's gonna hit that veneered MDF panel that looks like real wood, and it's gonna cut it nice and clean. If I do it the other way around, it'll chip all across the front. The black line there represents where the tooth goes. I'm gonna set it right next to my tape. We're gonna give her heck. That sounded good. Yeah, that's what it looked like. So that's gonna look really good when we hang that. Okay, so I'm just gonna do this 5 more times, get them all loaded up in the other room, and then we'll get to installing. All right, here we go. Let's start the first panel. It has an overlapping system. So we're gonna start with just the wood, right up against the corner. We're gonna set it on the baseboard and into the corner. Okay. Now over here, in this particular wall, my framing is right here. So I should be okay to put the screw, but minus this thickness, I'm gonna go on a bit of an angle. And let's just start right here. Yeah, you see that? The wood itself caused the screw to bend. So I'm gonna go on a tighter angle here to get started. There we go, now we got it. Beautiful. This is that simple. All right, there we go. Now what you're gonna find is if you're using a coarse thread screw, you can add extra screws and just put a bit of a 5-degree downward on it, and you can just screw into drywall itself. And that'll give enough tension there to close that gap where the joint is. Tell me this doesn't make any room turn into an office in a hurry. Oh, this is so sexy. Come on, Joe, you love it, don't you?
I do.
You want this in your room now, don't you, Joe? Okay. Well, let's step back and have a look at that. Yeah. Sexy as you want to be. All right. Okay, so we've got our acoustic treatment done on the back wall now. Basically, we're ready for our carpet. But before we do that, we got to get the door installed. And the door is the #1 weakest spot in any soundproof scenario, any assembly. It's the door. And so, first rule, we got to get rid of the hollow core door. We got to go with a solid core, all right? But with Van Air door, what it does is allows me to treat the door as the cold air return. It's stylish, it's cool, and it has a sound resonation system in it. So it's actually a soundproof, solid core, and a cold air return all in one. And it saves me thousands. And it's a solution that anybody can employ. It's amazing, so I'm gonna install that right now. All right, here we are. Get that flush there, and drive a screw in behind the doorstop. Okay, so it's nice and straight. That's great, but we're not plumb. So we're going to lift this out a little bit. Let's take a look what plumb looks like. Wow, that's actually perfect right there. Since we know that that is perfect, that is what I'm going to do. Now, I know a lot of guys like to use extra shims. And in this case, it's not really necessary to put the extra shims because we will be backing this up with some spray foam to help get rid of the noise traveling in between the wood and the cavity back here. Next step, we're gonna just work our way from the bottom, up, and then over, and then back down. So the first thing I gotta know is, now am I square, okay? Let's go check it out. Oh, we're so close now. Just a little bit more. Oh yeah, now I'm loving it. So when I close the door, I'm looking at the same gap here as I am here. This is a little tight, and what that means is that this needs to be lifted up when we install to create that gap. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna leave this jam on that shim, and I'm going to jam up here and get a nice screw in, and then I'm going to pull this and put in a screw and lift it tight. That is nice and consistent. Come on outside, I want to show you how this door operates. The vent track there, it's 2 feet over to the other side of the door on the back side. So I'm gonna blow a little air into it and you can see what happens. Did it work? Good. So now we know that the air works there. Now we're going to use our Great Stuff Pro as our sound insulator in the gap between the jamb and the frame. And we're just putting a small bead, nothing too extreme here. Yep, we're shooting underneath the jamb as well. We don't want any airspace traveling underneath our drywall one room to the next. Knowing that we can trim off the excess. Having one solid bead on each side of the door ensures that whatever air is in the middle is trapped, and that is good sound protection. And then we got to go across the top, and then down the side. All right. So the secret to soundproofing a door is one of two things. You can either add a mechanical piece at the bottom and the door closes, the mechanical piece closes the air gap, or because there's a cold air return in this door, you can cut the door perfect to your finished flooring, which is what we've done. That is sexy. Now we're gonna add our door stop with this cute little flange. We're just gonna stick it on, lay it up here, make some gentle contact with the door, fire it in. You would think that perhaps cutting this first before you put it on might be beneficial, but it does stretch out a little bit while you're installing it. So I'm gonna suggest just get it on, do 6 inches at a time with a little bit of tension. Okay, there we are. And that should be enough to solve all of the air leaks around this door. So you can see that the seal is touching the door. We want to put a little bit of pressure on that so that the seal is tight. These door stops don't always come as straight as you like them, so use nails as necessary to get the look of them. All right, now we have door. Makes a nice positive stop and a great seal. All right, guys. Well, here we are. We're all finished. Welcome to my new office / possibly podcast studio or live showroom. Let's give Matthew a go. So we're down here ready for our last soundproof test. If you want to beat on the old skins there. Wow, now that is a significant difference. Cheers, till next time.